what about the rest of the school? Like, is anybody else back? Like, what's the deal there? Like,
Yeah, so everybody's back. Everybody's here. I would say the class breakdown is maybe 50-50 in terms of online. But yeah, everybody's here.
That's great. And then what about with the players now, the set amount of time that you have? Like, when do those rules or regulations get increased or lifted or what?
I think Monday, we know about it, but we kind of just make sure we're, I think you can go to 8 hours a week on the court. That's a lot for the season being two months away. So we won't get near that. So we'll basically around this time, we're usually like small group workouts twice a week, team workout twice a week, and shooting one day, something like that. So yeah, we're doing all right and kind of trying to figure everything out.
All right, good. I know we didn't really get a chance to talk too much, like after all this stuff went down. I mean, I don't know, what were you working on, or what kind of happened for you from your perspective? Because I talked to a lot of people about some of the adjustments and things you tried to do during all that time,
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, the main thing for us was just staying in touch with the guys. So obviously some Zoom calls, we were probably doing 1 or 2 a week, but then also just individually staying in touch with the guys, staying in touch with the parents, keeping tabs on them. That was really the only thing we could do, and that was really what we focused on. So, we would have guest speakers, former players. We do it's Navy, we call it Navy SEAL training. The guy's actually an Army guy, but, we had him on. So we had a lot of things like that, just trying to kind of stay connected with the guys.
Mm-hmm. Hey, how tough is this for you? Like, what was it like for you? I mean, I know as a coach, right? I mean, the season is a year-round thing. Nobody understands that, but you kind of had to take a little bit of a step back, I would imagine, right? I mean,
yeah, for sure. It was obviously, everybody's nervous and scared at first. But yeah, then it's just, there's so little to do. It's hard to recruit, or there's not, hard to do different things. I mean, besides being on the phone and writing a couple notes, but hard to do things in recruiting and certainly with the guys. So it was a challenge. I mean, those were some long days, as everybody else probably thought too.
Everybody's got something, right? I mean, I looked at it and I was looking over your roster earlier and I'm thinking, man, what has he got? Like 25 guys on here right now? You know what I mean? It's like some schools, like, guys are coming back, some, no, we're not. And then what about the incoming freshmen? And then, the last year just got abruptly and it's, ended so abruptly. It was like, no, I want to like a do-over. I want to work with these guys again. It's just not right. So I don't know what's going on, but it sounds like you've got a lot of people that you hopefully will have back, and it's going to be a big roster for you this year.
Yeah, for sure. So we had 5 junior starters last year. Those same 5 guys will be senior starters this year. Actually, a couple of them are graduate students. So, but yeah, to return that many guys and to have that many upperclassmen on the roster have that many seniors on the roster is really, really tremendous.
Yeah, so I got Gilliard, Francis, KO, Sherrod, and Golden. That would be your starting 5. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty cool. And you're right. You got grad student, you got grad student, you got grad student, and you got senior. So I don't know. I mean, we've talked over the years too, and these all are great players. So this is different. Like there's sometimes when people say like, oh, they're back and they're an upperclassman. It's like, is it the right upperclassman? Is it the guy you want? Does he have the experience? He's not just an upperclassman to be an upperclassman. He better have improved and be the guy that I want. It seems like you've got that. So I'm pretty excited for you with that group.
Yeah, I appreciate it for sure. I mean, these are guys that have been in the program for a long time, guys have played together for a long time. So no question, like it's really a great group, and, just genuinely cannot wait to get started.
It seems like a lot of them and everybody's been through a lot. Now, I know from this year, everybody's going to be going through a lot, right? I mean, but, I can just think back to Golden, when he was first there, and then, his the medical condition he had, and then, coming back and then being injured and not being injured. It's just like, man, that guy, if he hasn't had everything happen to him that he could feel like I can overcome everything. You know what I mean? And I'm sure some of the other players have similar stuff too. It's pretty impressive.
It is impressive. Grant specifically is just one of the most impressive guys we've had. I've said this a few times. I mean, he really approaches basketball like he's a 5'10" walk-on. not a 6'10" all-conference player. And you're right. He has great resolve. He's tough and strong. And, I think he's so special that I think he's passed that on to the other guys. Like, just his everyday approach is so impressive. And I think that he has kind of made that the standard for everyone. And, he's just tremendous. And those upper class, if you get to be a senior in the same program and you're a successful guy, you probably have a lot going for you. And I feel like all of these guys do.
Yeah, and I had this conversation with a couple other coaches already in the A10, and I kind of gave out my thoughts on it. I wanted to kind of get yours about players being able to leave and transfer and not have to sit out anymore. And then, I don't know. I know what I think. Give me your take on all that as a coach.
Yeah, well, I think it's probably trickier. I could see if you're a kind of a fan of college basketball and, sometimes the argument is, well, I was allowed to transfer and go to a different school. There's so much that goes into it in college basketball, from the recruiting to admissions, to academic support, to player development, to strength training, to nutritional training. I can understand the argument that, well, that wasn't working out. When you're in it, I think what you see is probably the expectations were far too high. Part of that as the fault of the coaches. The expectations are far too high, and the speed bump is not that difficult to overcome. And I think that, again, I don't know exactly what the right answer is, but when you're in it, you probably see, maybe some lessons of sticking with it and, getting through it are lost because the recruiting is so intense, and to be recruited again is pretty tempting, better than fighting through whatever issue you're having on that program, which is usually, not playing as much as you want.
Well, but yeah, and that's it. You just mentioned all the other things about it, right? I mean, as a coach, like, your only job is not to just diagram X's and O's and tell guys where to go on certain screens and back cuts. I mean, you kidding me? It's probably like, honestly, maybe 10 or 20% of all the other things you need to do to develop these guys as young men, be their friend, be a father, maybe to some people, to, help them out with their academics, to everything. So if it comes down to just playing time, that's what it's not. That's one piece. So it's like, if some guy just doesn't play, like, all right, forget it, I'm out of here. Then he gets to go somewhere else and play right away. It's like, wait a minute, like, maybe it is the best fit for you at blank school, and
Right.
you just need to grow and get better. And how many times have we heard players at the end of it say, boy, I'm glad, coach stuck with me, or I had to work my butt off, or I learned this lesson because I needed to improve on that, instead of just jumping ship and going, oh, well, I'll just eliminate this and move on to something else. That's not how life works.
Right. I agree. I totally agree. And I think you're in an era of kind of the student rights or student athletes' rights, they're generally all very, very positive. Being able to have the guys get the cost of attendance and be able to feed the guys much more, and have the guys have platforms to speak their mind and give their opinion. I think those things are great and positive. I do think this is something that's, it's not exactly the best thing. And if you look at it, a lot of times guys will take 6 months to a year to decide on their college. And then when they announce they're transferring into the portal, they take 3 weeks to choose their next spot. And so, should that be legislated by the NCAA and the people there? I'm not so sure, but I don't think the result is the most positive outcome.
Yeah. Speaking of the NCAA decision, of course, now for November 25th, starting this season. And, I wanted you, if you could, give me a little bit of an idea, and for the fans out there that don't really understand how all this kind of works in terms of scheduling and stuff, it's a little different with basketball, as we all know, than it is football, which I don't agree, the games are scheduled like 5 years in advance, and it's such an ordeal, right, because of all the players and everything. You guys put your schedule together, non-conference. We know the conference is taken care of, but now what does that do to you guys with scheduling, and games and this and that? How does it all work?
Well, scheduling under the best of times is very challenging. And it's probably easiest to schedule for Duke and Kentucky. And then as you go down, it's much more challenging. And, one, you always have to worry about every school has different final schedules. Every school wants to play a certain amount of home games. They want to challenge themselves in different ways. And it's hard to get 350 plus schools on the same page. So, given that it's difficult then, it's really difficult in the smaller window. Since we moved the season back 15 days, I think college basketball has lost over 900 games, or those games have to be made up, postponed. There's money involved in some of those deals or many of those deals. So, and we have to drop down essentially from 13 non-league games to 9. So that's really extremely challenging. And we're just trying to figure it out right now. We have put together a really great, challenging schedule. Now we need to make sure we salvage those games, but not just be on the road the entire months of November and December, and try to give ourselves some home games, some opportunities at home. So every school is going through this, and it's a gigantic challenge, especially given the shortened window that we have.
Yeah, that's what I said to one of my friends and colleagues at ESPN. And, when we always get games right every week, the schedule comes out of like who's going where and who's doing what. And, everybody will be, hey, what's the deal? I'm like, how hard it is to schedule, like you just said, during a regular year of like where guys have to go and where they need to be. It's like, what do you think it's going to be like now? You know what I mean? It's like, I think we all need a little bit more understanding and, like consideration for what the deal is. And I don't think anybody's ever really going to be upset about what assignment they get right now, of course, when it's all taken away from you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Good point. Everybody really appreciates everything they have now.
Exactly. Hey, so like when you work with your guys, and I guess, off the court and the things that, maybe this past year has taught us, is there anything you've kind of developed or found that you can pass on and say, hey, yeah, no, we talked about this, or we learned this great thing during this time? I mean, I think everybody's trying to improve, right? And gain, maybe some people have extra time. Some people had to work harder. I get it. But what did you gather out of this time, or what are the players, do you think, improvements that were made maybe?
That's a great question. I think, on a couple of levels, I think early on, they were so upset and felt like the opportunity to play in the NCAA tournament was taken. Then kind of probably, I don't think all of them would have voted to be at home for that long. And then, of course, all the social justice issues and incidents that happened over the course of the summer. So there was really a lot. And I would say the biggest thing was the communication with your players and how important it was to listen to them. I think listening is probably, something that might not get talked about by head coaches as much, but I think listening is probably the most important attribute of being a successful head coach. It's gone are the days where you just say, hey, run 100 sprints and meet me upstairs. I think you have to listen to guys, understand where they're coming from, what issues they're facing, how they feel about certain things. Because of social media, it has changed. We're not all consuming the same news information like we might have been 10, 20 years ago. And so just trying to figure out really what is on their minds and what's important to them from a basketball standpoint and their motivations, but also in their world and on campus. I think that's really, really critical for all of us.
Yeah, you're thinking about it, because you've been doing this a long time. I mean, there's the good and bad of how everything changes, right? I mean, like, coaching 15 years ago, you can't say certain things or do certain things that you did back then. And okay, and maybe we're not cool with that, but now look at all the stuff that we've grown and are going to get better at now, right? I think because of some of this stuff, like, oh, geez, I really never took that approach. And maybe now that'll make things better. You never know.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I just think, that comes with the learning, everybody, players, coaches, administrators, when you put an ego and an agenda aside and you just sit and try to think and talk and listen, that really is a great help for everyone. And that helps the the best player, the all league player, and it helps the student manager, the freshman student manager. And so I do feel like that as things have, there's a balance to it. And there are some things on social media that can be divisive and destructive. But there are some things that they know and understand in more detail than I certainly would have at that age, and maybe even now. So I think learning from those things and listening, I think are all really positive changes.
That's a good deal. How's the fans? How's the Richmond fans that everybody doing? I know how many people you've interacted with or talked to throughout all this. I mean, they support you guys. I know there's been ups and downs through all this, but I love coming down there. That in the games in the Robins Center, and you guys are gonna have an awesome team coming up. What about the fans and the support that you have there?
They've been great. We've done a couple of things with Zoom meetings with some season ticket holders, and we have a couple of diehard fans that come by many of our practices, and we stay in touch with them and keep them posted. And generally, I think, people were very excited and emailing me when we got official word of the start date for college basketball. So I think they're excited. I think next thing they're going to want to be is in the Robins Center. Hopefully we'll be able to get to that point. It's at some time during the season, but I think they're excited about the team and really excited to have college basketball back.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm hoping that, with everything else that's gone on, right, with the NBA and the NHL and the, Major League Baseball and now the NFL, there's been enough that have kind of gone before, college basketball, right? We got 2 more months. I hope it's done right. I hope it's figured out at this point, you know what I mean? As best as you can, right? Considering everything. I mean, 2 more months to let's do this, you know what I mean? Do it right.
Yeah, for sure. And, I can only speak for University of Richmond, but the plan that they laid out, the investments that they made to keep everyone safe, the communications that they've had with the students and with parents, it's been top notch. And so hopefully that will continue, and, that there are improvements and expansion of testing. And, so hopefully the 2 months is a long time, as we've learned over here in the last 6 or 7 months. Hopefully those positive trends continue. Hopefully football carries on and does well, and we can set ourselves up for a great basketball season.
Yeah, and I'm hoping we're going to be able to get some fans in there too. I mean, whatever capacity possible. And if not, I hope everybody just gets that sound pumped in or whatever, because we certainly need it. I mean, when you played in games, and I've broadcasted games before, places where there's no noise. That's not good for anybody, really. The players, the announcers, the fans watching at home, and we've got to create as best as we can. I think in the NBA has done a nice job of that too. So let's hope we can get some fans in. If not, we pump in that noise and get everybody juiced,
Yeah, I hope so. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. All right, man. Hey, awesome catching up with you. It was really good to see you, and I hope we get this season going. I look forward to doing some games this year.
Sounds great. Great to see you, Mike.
All right, you too, Coach. Thanks a lot.
You bet.
All right, thanks again. Hey, all the best, and I'm sure I'll catch you at some point.
Yeah, I hope so. All right,
great talking to you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Coach.
Cheers,
See you
Jimmy.
soon.